This conference will now be recorded.
There we go. Good morning, everybody. We are here at the July 9th, 2025 meeting of the Enforcement Oversight Committee. Time now is 9:01 a.m. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Stephanie, will you verify meeting attendance for us, please?
Yes. Lori?
Here.
Annie?
Here.
And Kathy?
Here.
Okay, meeting attendance is verified. Staff in attendance today, we have myself, Chad Cook. We have Administrative Specialist Stephanie Perkins and Investigator Dan Murphy. First order of business today is to approve the Enforcement Oversight Committee meeting minutes from the June 18th, 2025 meeting. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes as written?
I'll approve. I'll motion.
Kathy with the motion.
I'll
Is there a
second.
second? Lori with the second. Perfect. And Stephanie, let's do a quick roll call vote.
Lori?
Yes.
Annie?
Yes.
And Kathy?
Yes.
Perfect. Motion carries. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and pass the meeting over to Dan. I think he's got a couple of cases to talk to you all about today.
Good morning. I have two cases that we rolled into one. They were submitted to the board separately. One was an AMC and one was a lender. And they were both directed towards one appraiser. And the allegations are that the appraiser completed assignments with an expired license. It's very straightforward. Does anyone have any questions about what I've written in the PCR or the documentation that you've been provided with?
The only question that I had was I didn't see what your recommendation was.
Oh, the recommendations begin on, well, they're on page 4 of the PCR, right below a solid line. It says recommendations. Based on the investigation completed, it appears that there are violations of USPAP in effect at the time the appraisal activity took place. And it proceeds and lists the USPAP violation, which there's only one in this case. It's the ethics rule. And then the rest are Oregon Administrative Rules, OAR, and Oregon Revised Statutes, ORS.
Yeah, I saw that and I read through all of that, but I didn't see are you recommending the full aspect of all of those things?
So these are my recommendations. This is what I found during the course of the investigation. And following this and following the vote on whether you all agree with the findings, the next step would be to put together a summary of violations and sanctions, and then it goes to Chad for negotiating a settlement with the appraiser.
So Kathy, what you all are voting on today is whether or not you think an objective basis exists to believe that the things that are called out as violations occurred. If you guys approve those things, then that, like Dan said, then I go back to the appraiser or the respondent, and there's a back and forth negotiation, at least the potential for negotiation. If there's no response from the appraiser, it basically just goes to the board with the sanctions as you know, based on what's in the PCR here.
Okay,
So
Kathy,
I have a question. Go ahead. So what are the options of action that we would have when somebody doesn't have a license anymore? What are the options?
In terms of the disciplinary matrix, so that talking about consequences and outcomes and things like that, it's not generally done in the EOC. What we're here to do today is to talk about whether or not the stuff happened. As far as the potential outcomes, unlicensed activity is one of the most serious things that we can find. Whether it's intentional unlicensed activity, accidental unlicensed activity, knowingly permitting somebody that's not an appraiser to appraise, you know, and use your name, you know, those kinds of things. In terms of the way that those issues break out, unlicensed activity is a significant damage to the public trust, right? So that's one of the more serious things that we deal with, which is why this case was moved more or less to the front of the line when it came in, or cases. So the cases relate to the same issue with the same person filed by two parties on the transaction side, right? So as far as outcomes, without getting too specific, pretty serious. Significant, I
Yes.
guess, would be a good word for it.
Kathy, I completely understand your question because I do believe that in the last meeting there were some recommendation to dismiss.
Yeah.
That's not really what we're here to determine. We're here to determine whether there's a reasonable basis to believe that a violation occurred, and then the board staff would take it from there. Yeah.
Yeah, the prior EOC meeting, the PCR that I wrote recommended that a letter of counsel be issued to the appraiser. So we identified some potential issues, and then the recommendation was a letter of counsel. This is beyond letter of counsel material. Yeah.
And just to give a little clarity on how that process happens, why that occurred in the last meeting, where we're not talking about consequences today, is in terms of, and that wasn't really consequences, right? That was just a recommendation to the board. So if a case comes up where it looks like there are no violations, our statute doesn't require an EOC to make recommendations to the board. That's where internally staff can make a decision, myself can make a decision on, well, the investigation to date doesn't show any violations. We don't really need a recommendation from the EOC if it's going to be closed administratively. Whereas a letter of counsel is a formal communication from the board. It's not discipline, but it is on record, and better safe than sorry is my preferred course of action. So because it's a communication from the board, it's non-disciplinary, but it is formal. I felt like that would be better to come from that recommendation coming from the EOC is in holding with our normal process, right? According to 674.145.
I just had one thing. And most of these that we do is with somebody who has a license and they have something to lose and they have an investment because they're practicing, they have a business and they're doing it. And I think I think we've seen maybe one other one since I've been on the board, which hasn't been that long, but one that was just somebody who doesn't, it isn't licensed. And so, do you see what I'm trying to say? It's just, I was just wondering about that because I'm like, well, if they're not licensed, and they're not.
What authority do we have?
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you, Laura. Yeah. Just like, and I guess that was kind of my question, but I guess that's a better discussion for ACLB, but.
I can really quickly here pull up the section of statute that talks about the board's continuing authority. It essentially says that the board has the authority, regardless of licensure status, whether your license is active, suspended, revoked, expired, terminated, whatever your license status is, that the board can go back and look at issues and address issues within our statutory limitation period. So within that 5 years of the date that the activity occurred, whether or not you're licensed has no bearing on whether or not what happened while you were licensed or not licensed was a violation, right? So even if the license has been expired and terminated for 2 years, in a lot of cases with not serious issues where it's more or less procedural, maybe we had a minor standard 1 issue or something like that, it might not be worth the board's time and attention to deal with that, and it might be closed. In the event of more serious issues or allegations or findings of violations, you all have up to 5 years from the date the activity occurred, regardless of licensure status, to act on that problem. So even with an expired license, there are potential consequences to doing things like this.
Sure.
The other point to that, Annie, that occurred to me is that I believe that this appraiser obtained a license via reciprocity. I think his or her home state is actually Washington. Not that really matters, but that license is still active, and that
yeah, for sure.
What occurred is very, very serious, and I think that that state may actually take some action based on what has occurred here in Oregon.
It's
So
possible.
That was another question, was why aren't they doing it? But maybe they are.
well,
Maybe their EOC is aware
I
of
think
it.
it's
He may
because
not be,
they don't have
he may
one.
not have violated any of their rules or statutes, but at the outcome of this, it's potential that we will alert the state of Washington to the outcome of this, and then they may have something to say to the appraiser.
So whatever comes out of not today's meeting, this is just the recommendations meeting potentially for the board at the time that an order or a settlement is drafted about this issue. That's all public record, number one. And number two, any type of significant discipline is reported to the appraiser subcommittee or the appraisal subcommittee, and it goes on the registry for our record. So anything that would affect an individual's ability to practice, whether or not their license is expired or terminated or active, if an action occurs on that license, that registry gets updated. So theoretically, potentially, if it comes time to, okay, I'll use myself as an example. Hypothetically, I do something really serious in Oregon, and I also have a Washington license, and I don't bother to tell Washington that I got disciplined in Oregon. That goes on the registry, and at the time of renewal, at least in terms of what we do, I would imagine Washington or other states are going to be similar. We check those things. So if an appraiser doesn't disclose that something happened on an application, that itself is grounds for rejection of the application and denial of a renewal.
Is there any process by which that a state would actually contact the other state and say, just heads up, this is action we've taken in our state?
We have a thing called a final order mailing list. And I was under the impression, I guess incorrectly, that all the states were on that list. We can't reach out and volunteer information necessarily, but if somebody were to ask, like in another state agency, if they were to ask about appraiser records, what we would basically say is either get on the final order mailing list, because that's basically a public records request. It's a standing request that keeps going. Either getting on that list, or if they call in and they ask for records, we would tell them, okay, here, please fill out this public records request form. Very simple and easy, but that allows us to document who we talked to, what was it about, right? All of that transparency stuff that we need to maintain. I wish that there was a better way to do that, but the registry being one, and then our final order mailing list being another, and then our public records request process being the third way, that basically anybody, states, private individuals, can get that public information. It would be nice if that were more readily available, like on tap. But as of right now, that's not available to any of us states that I know of.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So can I just ask one question of Dan on this? So this to on the surface looks very intentional and very blatant to me. Is it possible? I mean, just given trying to give this individual the benefit of the doubt, is it possible that she mixed up the expiration date of her Oregon license with the expiration date of her Washington license? And you, well, it doesn't.
Lori, Dan, can I answer that one real quick?
Sure.
There is a difference. Being a former Washington licensee, I know that there happens to be a difference in our expiration dates between Washington and Oregon. Oregon is the last day of your birth month.
Yeah.
Washington is your birthday.
Yeah, I have both licenses, and that's correct. And on the ASC, her Washington license is expiration of 8/10/2026.
Yeah, I was just, I think that intentionality in this case is important to me. and it just, anyway, it looks pretty blatant.
Well, in this particular case too, there was no communication with us and the appraiser. I never
Yeah,
got a hold
there's
of her.
that.
I was never
There's
able to
that.
reach her and ask her any
Multiple
questions.
attempts. Yeah.
You know, what happened here? What went wrong? And maybe there was some reason that she thought in her mind was legitimate reason for doing that. I don't know. I just don't know because she never asked. And the closest I ever got was, you know, it's a situation where we tried to get her via mail with certified mail, couldn't do it that way. I tried calling her, and in this situation, it's one of those where the voicemail just says, leave your number for this person or for this number. They don't identify, so it doesn't even tell me if I was calling the right person. The only way I know is that she responded one time via email, so we know we had the right email for sure. She responded in that email saying she was going to give me a call back, and she never did. So I could never question her or ask her anything, and I just had to go on the information that I had.
Right.
The other question I had was maybe, again, to Lori, your point of giving her maybe the benefit of the doubt was, did she use a trainee? And that was the trainee's expiration date.
I don't think she had supervisory status.
She doesn't? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, all right.
Well, I, I, yeah, I think it is what it is. Maybe we're ready for a vote.
Yeah.
I can read through my recommendations and go through our vote just like normal. Ready for that?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Ethics rule, conduct.
Lori,
Yes.
Annie,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Okay. Oregon Administrative Rule, OAR 161.006.01604.
Lori,
Yes.
Annie,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Okay. OAR 161.010.0010.4D.
Lori,
Yes.
Annie,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
OAR 161.025.0060.1.
Lori,
Yes.
Annie,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
OAR 161.025.0060.8.
Lori,
Yes.
Annie,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Oregon Revised Statute, ORS 674-100-1A.
Lori,
Yes.
Annie,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
ORS 674-140-1.
Lori,
Yes.
Annie,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
ORS 674-140-2.
Lori,
Yes.
Annie,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
ORS 674-140-6.
Lori,
Yes.
Annie,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
ORS 674 140 11.
Lori,
Yes.
Annie,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
ORS 674 140 13A.
Lori,
Yes.
Annie,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Just to clarify
Or
really quick, Dan, that was one vote, 13A and B.
A and B goes as one vote, not separate for A and separate
Well,
for B.
it's one section of statute, right? It's two parts, but it's paragraph 13, right? You've got it listed as one thing. So voting on that would be voting on both of those.
Okay. So 674 140 13A and B. Okay.
Lori.
I'm sorry. Are we doing another roll call?
No, we're just combining ORS 674 140 13A and B. Instead of voting separately for A and separately for B, we're voting as one A and B.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Lori,
Yes.
Annie,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right. That's my case. And that's all I have for you today. I've got another one that's about 98% complete. I'm waiting for a response from an appraiser, and then I'll just keep plugging along.
Thank you,
Thank
Dan,
you,
for your
Dan.
work,
Nice
all your
work,
hard work.
Dan.
Good
Thank
work.
you very
Dan.
much for volunteering in this EOC. It's a crucial part of being transparent and this investigation thing is can't do it without you guys. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
With no other business, at least on the agenda, do you guys want to talk about scheduling the EOC for August?
Ooh, let's do that. I've got, let's see, August. My August is a little, I'm going in for eye surgery early in the month. So, if we could make it later in sort of like mid or later, my surgery is on the 4th. So, and I'm going to be, so anything we
Would
could
the-
do later in the month.
Would 2 weeks after, so like say the 20th, that Wednesday, that would be two weeks and a couple of days after? Would that give you enough?
That should be pretty good. I might look a little weird on camera, but maybe I'll turn my camera off.
Well,
But-
Annie, I look a little weird all the time, so welcome to the club.
Right.
True.
Imagine walking around life looking like imagine walking around looking like this. You'll be fine.
Nice.
I might look like a pirate, but we'll see.
We'll make it a
could we
pirate day.
potentially look at maybe doing it the 19th? I'm out the 20th through the rest of the week to prepare for my wedding, so like to at least be here to help.
Yay for weddings.
Yay for weddings.
That
Well,
totally works for me.
That works for
Yeah,
me too.
that would be a Tuesday. Okay.
Yeah, the bride takes precedence in this case.
Absolutely.
Bride always gets her way.
Yep.
No, I'm here to help everybody, so I want to make sure that I'll be at least here for that.
Excellent. Okay. All right. So tentatively then the 19th and same time, 9 a.m.
Sure.
That
If
sounds
that works.
great.
Okay. All right.
Where
Well,
are you
I have
registered, Stephanie?
What was that, Lori?
Where are you registered?
We don't actually have a registry. We're just doing a cash bar to help for the
Oh, there you
honeymoon.
go. There you
Yeah.
go.
Love that.
So
Love
I'm
that.
going to put this on my calendar now. Can we
That sounds good. Yeah, and I will get that as long as everybody's on board with the 19th at 9 a.m. I will go ahead and get that on the Public Meetings Transparency website ASAP, and we'll put it on the calendar.
That sounds great. Thank you, Chad.
Okay,
And I
guys, talk
guess
to you in, was it
in a
next
couple of
week?
weeks,
Yeah, a couple
two weeks. So the 22nd is the board meeting. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, do
All
we need
right.
a motion to adjourn?
Yes, we do.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Oh, there you go.
Okay,
And
Lori,
Stephanie with the blue foot.
Yes.
Annie,
Yes.
and Kathy.
Yes.
Excellent. Motion carries. The time now is 9:27 a.m. and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you again, everybody, for your time today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.